So I've recently finished my Bachelor in Exercise and Sport Science, and there have been quite a few things that have changed in my training throughout my study. I'm about to do my Masters in Physiology. So I want to share 5 things I stopped doing after I completed my Bachelor in Exercise and Sport Science. So the first thing is that I actually started training more intuitively. And this might sound counterintuitive because isn't progressive overload everything you want and you need? And yes, obviously progressive overload is one of the most popular ways to make progress in the gym and in your training. What people often forget is that exercising is just that one little part of the formula, and then how you train is important and that you provide enough stimulus to your body. I think a lot of the times we forget about recovery in terms of nutrition, in terms of sleep, in terms of walking and doing all these things to recover, and stress levels and mental health is how you recover is just as important as how you train, if not even more so. I think as someone who's studying and working 2 jobs and trying to have a social life and trying to have hobbies and all of that stuff, I'm naturally quite exhausted. So I've actually dropped down my training volume and I'm not training every single day to absolute exhaustion anymore. And I also see walking as one of my exercises. That's probably a completely different topic actually itself, but looking at the science and how recovery affects performance and adaptation to the body has made me realize how doing more isn't always better. The second one is that I've started doing different types of cardio. I actually feel a little bit silly that I didn't know this beforehand, because beforehand I would just go to the group fitness gyms that I work out. I'll just go and do the cardio session, burpees, calories on the ski, whatever the program would be. That would be my cardio. And to be honest, for a lot of us, and for me back then as well, it was just a way to burn fat. But having studied physiology at uni, and I realized the difference between, for example, anaerobic and aerobic training, changed how I structure my cardio sessions. For example, at the moment, I always do at least 1 aerobic and 1 anaerobic sessions. So one of them would be like a HIIT style session, for example, with 10 seconds on, 50 seconds off for a set amount of times. And then the other one would be like a zone 2 consistent run. I do not combine both these in one cardio session. I do now see them as separate sessions. It's almost like 2 different cardio sessions, almost like you split upper and lower body up into 2 different categories. The third thing I started doing is actually be super specific with my exercises at the gym. Yes, there are the absolute basics like your squats, deadlifts, bench press. If you actually want to get better at something, you need to get more specific. And that, for example, is when I started running and increased or changed my training around running. So doing more single leg exercises, doing seated calf raises, standing calf raises, especially plyometrics as well. And I did not realize what an effect plyometrics actually have on performance. I always thought plyometrics just, again, a fun way to get the heart rate up, cardio, burn some calories, but it actually has huge benefits on your running performance, or really any endurance athlete's performance, if you do them properly. The fourth thing is changing my strength training from always doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 to actually splitting it into strength training, hypertrophy, and endurance. And a lot of the time I actually spend in strength training differently now. I'm talking like doing 3, 4, 5 sets at 3 to 6 reps-ish, and actually building to a maximal or near maximal load, rather than always just kind of building to that fatigue at the 10 to 12 rep mark. I think a lot of us still do the 3 to 10, 3 to 12 reps for every single exercise and think that's enough, and it's better than nothing. But if you really want to build strength versus muscle mass, although there is obviously a little bit of overlap, training more specifically and splitting those into different categories depending on what your goal is has really changed the way I train. And it makes it more interesting as well, splitting it into different categories and knowing which one will benefit you in what way. Now, the last thing is quality over quantity always. And this kind of goes along with the first point that I said at the start, but doing too much is actually not beneficial at all if you're not recovering properly. This is specifically in regards to running, that doing more easily leads to injury, and especially with running, learning that, for example, with every step there's 7 times your body weight of force going through your body, really made me realize that exercising is great, but it puts a lot of stress in your body, and if you do not recover and you do not treat it as such, then you are going to get injured. And there are so many ways to prevent injury, or at least reduce the risk of it, in the science that we have found out that are beneficial to reduce injury risk. So there really is no need, if we monitor our load and get away from that mindset that more is better, because it's most of the time it's not, especially when more just means you're showing up every day. But if you show up every day and you just do a half-ass workout, then get the heart rate up or burn some calories, it's probably going to be as good as just going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week and actually have a specific training program that you follow, but then also having those rest days in between to allow your body to recuperate and recover and be ready for the next training session so you can go all out again. Those are just some things that came to my mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you follow for more exercise science tips of these things in your own training. Are you going to? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.